Want to speak real Chinese from your very first lesson? Get instant access with your free lifetime account at LangAdvance.com.
Welcome to this unique course journey into the fundamentals of human communication, rooted in the timeless wisdom of the East. This course draws its insights from Guiguzi, a legendary figure in Chinese history, often revered as a divine strategist. His teachings, once considered forbidden knowledge, reveal the deep psychological principles behind influence, persuasion, and human behavior. Throughout Chinese history, emperors studied Guiguzi's strategies to strengthen their rule and control their subordinates. Precisely because of its power, his work was kept secret out of fear that if common people mastered it, they could reverse control those in authority. For generations, his writings were classified as banned books. Guiguzi's philosophy covers a wide range of fields, including military strategy, political intelligence, leadership, diplomacy, and interpersonal communication. Even in modern times, his work has made a profound impact, especially among diplomats, military leaders, and policymakers. As early as 1955, American scholars dubbed Guiguzi the original classic of global strategy, sparking widespread interest across political, military, and business communities. German historian and socio-political thinker Oswald Spengler once noted that Guiguzi's sharp insights into human nature and diplomacy made him one of the most influential figures of his time. This course distills the essence of Guiguzi's teachings on communication, drawing from his profound understanding of human nature and behavior. It's designed to help you gain the upper hand in conversations by tapping into the core drivers of human interaction. By developing sharper communication skills and quicker response strategies, you'll position yourself for faster career advancement, stronger workplace influence, and a lasting edge in social and professional relationships. You'll learn how to spot people's true intentions and build strong, productive relationships. When it comes to leadership, Guiguzi believed in the power of flexibility, using softness to overcome force. Great leaders, he said, are the ones who know how to adapt and adjust. In today's world, whether you're crafting a marketing strategy or building personal influence, Guiguzi's psychological communication techniques give you a serious advantage. Mastering this course, rooted in the timeless wisdom of human behavior, will make you more persuasive and effective in any conversation, helping you reach your goals across a wide range of social and professional situations. Our course offers in-depth, easy-to-follow explanations that make it simple for you to understand and quickly master the art of communication and reading people. To help you truly grasp Guiguzi's wisdom, each lesson goes beyond theory. We bring in real-life examples to show how these ideas apply in everyday situations. This approach makes it easier for you to absorb the concepts and put them into practice. By the end of the course, you'll be able to handle all kinds of social interactions with confidence, think on your feet during conversations, and train your mind to approach communication more strategically. If you've ever struggled with communication in daily life or simply want to improve your skills, this course is the perfect fit. With consistent practice alongside the lessons, you'll find better solutions to your communication challenges and see your skills reach a whole new level. Guiguzi was a legendary figure in Chinese history, often regarded as almost divine. He was a polymath with vast, almost cosmic wisdom, and it is said that his predictions about events spanning 500 years proved accurate. Without leaving his home, he could understand everything happening in the world. His wisdom has been repeatedly validated throughout history and can help us build a secure life with a strong sense of purpose. Former U.S. Secretary of State Henry Kissinger once said he was a student of Guiguzi. In Japan, there is already a vertical and horizontal research institute with many people identifying themselves as followers of Guiguzi. The renowned scholar Takeo Ohashi has also explored Guiguzi's strategies in economic activities and business negotiations, which have gained widespread international influence. Southeast Asian countries have established Guiguzi-related research institutions, and the study of Guiguism has gained popularity. The Philippines even publishes a monthly magazine and has set up the Guiguzi Academic Award. Why has Guiguzi earned such great respect? Because his philosophy encompasses strategies for governing a country, as well as wisdom in military affairs, interpersonal communication, leadership, and many other areas. Guiguzi taught only 4 students in his lifetime. Sun Bin and Pang Huan brought an end to the era of the 5 kingdoms rivalry, while Zhang Yi and Su Qin ended the era of the 7 kingdoms warfare, leading to the rise of China's great dynasty, the Qin dynasty. Among them, Su Qin served as the chancellor of 6 states and kept the Qin state under control, rendering it powerless. Zhang Yi, another student of Guiguzi, helped Qin defeat Su Qin's alliance of 6 states, paving the way for the rise of China's powerful Qin dynasty. The wisdom of Guiguzi encompasses various aspects, such as interpersonal communication, psychological tactics, and leadership skills. Our course is designed for beginners who want to learn communication techniques. In modern career development, Guiguzi's teachings offer professionals valuable insights on managing interpersonal relationships and upward management. This helps individuals better understand the needs and motivations of others, fostering more effective collaboration. In business negotiations, observing body language can assist negotiators and leaders in adapting to changes and securing more favorable terms. By studying Guiguzi's philosophy, learners can become more confident in their careers and achieve more efficient team management. Through this course, you will learn Guiguzi's strategies for understanding and communicating with people, allowing you to accurately grasp people's intentions, achieve effective communication, and quickly master communication skills for various social situations. Welcome to our course on communication techniques inspired by Guiguzi. Today's lesson focuses on how to engage effectively with highly intelligent individuals. In professional settings, negotiations, or discussions, we often encounter people with sharp thinking, strong logic, and deep insights. Their words and actions can steer conversations in their favor, subtly influencing those around them. So, how can we communicate effectively with such individuals and maintain control of the dialogue? When engaging with well-informed and deep-thinking individuals, you must earn their respect and recognition by demonstrating broad knowledge, a global perspective, and agile thinking. First, pay close attention to how the people around you speak and act. Observe how they communicate to achieve their true intentions. Second, regularly read books and stay updated on current affairs to expand your knowledge base. Every book you read and every new industry you learn about gives you an advantage in conversations. Third, acquire general knowledge in fields such as history, philosophy, science, and culture to enrich your communication materials. During conversations, practice applying this knowledge by appropriately citing classic works, authoritative theories, or successful cases to enhance your persuasiveness. Fourth, in conversations, you should not only have knowledge, but also develop your own thoughts and perspectives. Learn to analyze issues from multiple angles and present unique insights. This will allow you to navigate high-level discussions with ease and truly understand the other person's way of thinking. After learning strategies for communicating with wise individuals, you should practice applying them in real-life situations. When reporting project progress to senior leadership in the workplace, first, understand the company's recent strategic direction and industry trends. For example, if the company is promoting digital transformation, you can study relevant case studies in advance. Second, use data to support your statements during the report. Let the numbers speak for themselves. For example,
according to market research, our new product has achieved an 85% satisfaction rate among target users, which is 10% higher than our competitors.
third, cite successful cases and reference how other companies have succeeded in similar projects. For instance,
A well-known company implemented a similar strategy and achieved a 20% increase in sales within a year.
by using this communication strategy, senior leadership will see that you not only understand the company's business, but also think from a broader perspective, making it easier to gain their recognition and trust. When working as a technical professional with the marketing team to promote a new product, first, take the time to learn some basic marketing knowledge to better understand their field. Second, communicate in a way that the marketing team can easily understand. For example,
Our technology has a processing speed that is 30% faster than competitors, which means users can complete tasks in a much shorter time.
third, identify common goals and emphasize how technical advantages can help the marketing team achieve their objectives. For instance,
If we highlight this advantage, we may attract more high-end users.
by communicating this way, the marketing team will see that you not only understand technology, but also recognize their needs, making collaboration smoother and more effective. In academic discussions or during your studies, when discussing your thesis direction with your advisor, first, before meeting your advisor, read relevant literature and the latest research papers in your field to stay updated on cutting-edge developments. Second, ask insightful questions. For example,
I've noticed that several recent papers discuss the application of AI in medical diagnosis, but there seems to be a lack of discussion on ethical issues. Do you think this could be a valuable research direction?
third, cite classic theories. Support your arguments by referencing authoritative theories during discussions. For instance,
According to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, users' product demands can be categorized into 5 levels. My research is based on this framework.
engaging in discussions with such depth and critical thinking will earn your advisor's recognition and make them more willing to guide you further. In social settings, we often engage in deep conversations with others. When you meet someone particularly interested in history or other topics, first, start with their interests and ask engaging questions. For example,
I recently read a book about World War II and found it fascinating. Do you have any insights into this period of history?
second, after they share their thoughts, contribute your own perspective. For instance, I think World War II was not just a military conflict, but also a turning point for technology and culture. For example, computers and rocket technology advanced rapidly during that time. Third, include interesting historical anecdotes in the conversation. For example, I read a story about how Alan Turing cracked Germany's code during the war, which directly shortened the war's duration. Truly remarkable. Communicating in this way makes you come across as not only interesting, but also knowledgeable, encouraging deeper conversations and stronger connections. After mastering how to communicate with well-informed individuals, we should be aware of the following conversational pitfall. Avoid overloading the conversation with technical jargon. Overusing obscure knowledge can come across as forced, diminishing the natural flow of the dialogue. Always focus on problem solving, not overpowering or dominating the other person. Once you've learned the basics of conversing with knowledgeable people, you can try the following practical techniques to further enhance your communication. First, if you know you'll be interacting with a senior or expert, take the time to learn about their background, interests, and professional areas. Prepare relevant topics in advance. Then, during the conversation, reference classic or scientific theories appropriately and use data and authoritative sources to gain their respect and agreement. Second, even if you possess a wealth of knowledge, maintain humility and respect the other person's views. Embrace differing opinions and learn from them when engaging with wise, knowledgeable, and deep thinkers. It's essential to use your extensive knowledge and wide range of interests to demonstrate your value, while keeping a humble and open-minded attitude. Through extensive learning and the flexible application of knowledge, we can earn the respect and recognition of these individuals in our conversations. In daily life, we may encounter people who struggle with understanding. They might have difficulty grasping the meaning of our words, or we may often misunderstand their true intentions. This can result from differences in knowledge, thinking patterns, or communication styles, leading to inefficient interactions. In some cases, this kind of communication may even trigger conflicts between both parties. So, how should we adjust our communication approach when facing individuals with limited understanding in order to make the exchange smoother, more efficient, and capable of influencing their way of thinking? When dealing with shallow thinking, stubborn, or slow-minded individuals, you can resolve communication issues through structured logical reasoning. First, when engaging with individuals who have limited cognitive flexibility or rigid thinking, you need to lead the conversation with clear and compelling logic. Avoid being dragged into their narrow viewpoints by structuring an evidence-based argument supported by facts and case studies. Second, use logical deduction to break through cognitive limitations. A rigorous reasoning approach can help them expand their thinking, similar to modern critical thinking guidance. By dissecting issues through cause and effect relationships and asking probing questions, you can expose inconsistencies in their arguments. Third, learn to control the conversation flow and gradually guide them to reflect on their views. Prevent meaningless debates by maintaining a structured discussion that ensures communication efficiency and emphasizes a pragmatic approach. Use simple, clear language to avoid confusion caused by complex sentence structures. Next, you should emphasize adjusting your strategy based on the characteristics of the person you are communicating with. First, adapt to the other person's cognitive level to ensure they can comprehend your points. Avoid using overly complex concepts or arguments that may be beyond their understanding. Second, prioritize efficiency by achieving persuasion with minimal effort. Focus on the most effective way to convey your message without unnecessary elaboration or excessive explanations. Third, balance offense and defense while challenging incorrect viewpoints. Also, avoid getting drawn into meaningless disputes. Instead of engaging in endless debates, focus on structured reasoning that effectively dismantles misconceptions. When communicating with individuals who are shallow thinking, stubborn, or slow to process information, it is crucial to remain calm and rational. By applying these strategies, you can use logic as a tool to break through cognitive barriers, ensuring productive discussions and achieving effective communication. Here's how to apply the strategies in real-life scenarios. In the workplace, when dealing with stubborn individuals, you can use a three-step rebuttal method. Establish the conversation's foundation and confirm common ground. For example, when discussing a project delay, you can begin by asking, "Do you believe the project delay is due to insufficient manpower?" Anchor your argument with facts. For instance, however, last week's work hour statistics show that Team A's utilization rate is only 60%. This introduces solid data to support your position. guide the conversation logically to lead to a conclusion. For example, this suggests that the issue may lie in task allocation rather than total manpower. This structured approach helps shift the conversation toward a more productive and reasoned outcome. When collaborating across departments or communicating with individuals who struggle to understand, visualization can be a powerful tool. Convert written reports into flowcharts, highlighting key decision points, so the information becomes clearer and easier to follow. Use a cost-benefit matrix to compare the pros and cons of different solutions. By presenting information in a way that allows the other person to visualize the impact, you help them grasp the deeper implications and shift their way of thinking. In family education, teenagers often tend to be stubborn in their opinions. For example, when facing a teenager who doesn't want to go to school, try using the Socratic questioning chain. 1. Identify the core issue. When the child says they don't want to go to school, ask,
Is it because the teacher criticized you?
Introduce a reference point.
If Steve Jobs were criticized by a teacher, would he give up on entrepreneurship?
3. Guide toward a solution.
So, can we discuss how to turn criticism into motivation for improvement?
This approach helps teenagers better understand effective communication and self-reflection. In public affairs, when it is necessary to dispel the spread of rumors, we can apply the 4-step logical falsification method. First, question the fundamental source of the issue. When encountering false data, ask, which institution provided the data you mentioned? Second, use comparative verification to support the correct viewpoint and debunk the rumor with official data. The data from the National Bureau of Statistics for the same period shows slight differences from what you mentioned. Third, conduct causal analysis. The discrepancy between your data and the official figures may be due to differences in statistical methodology. Fourth, re-establish proper understanding. Since our data sources differ, it is more advisable to refer to official and authoritative sources. By applying these techniques in daily life, we can gain valuable insights. Let's practice using these methods to handle challenges more effectively. When communicating with someone who has difficulty understanding, you should not only learn specific techniques, but also be mindful of the following 3 communication taboos. First, minimize the use of technical jargon. Otherwise, it may create cognitive barriers for the listener. Second, avoid excessive debate. Over-arguing can prevent meaningful communication and defeat the purpose of the conversation. Third, manage your emotions. Stay calm before continuing the discussion. Remain patient and avoid emotional outbursts that could lead to conflict. When applying today's strategies, always keep these communication taboos in mind to ensure effective and constructive interactions. When communicating with someone who has difficulty understanding, once you have mastered the basic techniques, you can try applying the following 4 advanced strategies. First, adjust your speech rate. Slow down to fewer than 120 words per minute to lower the listener's defense mechanisms and induce a more relaxed state. Second, mirror and synchronize their body language. For example, if they have their arms crossed, subtly mimic the posture, and then gradually open your arms to guide them into a more open state, reducing communication barriers. Third, use cognitive desensitization. Introduce an alternative perspective every 2 weeks. After 6 to 8 repetitions, this can create a habitual thought pattern. Then, design targeted scenarios where the stubborn individual can participate in practical validation of the new viewpoint. Fourth, recognize signs of unproductive communication. If the other person exhibits prolonged pupil dilation, a vocal frequency exceeding 280 Hz, or repeats the same argument 3 or more times without adding new information, it may indicate that further discussion is futile. In such cases, use phrases like, "It seems we are approaching this issue from different perspectives. Perhaps discussing it at another time would be more productive," to gracefully exit the conversation. The essence of communicating with individuals who are shallow in thinking, stubborn, or slow in comprehension lies in respecting cognitive differences while ensuring effective information delivery. In practical application, keep the following 3 key points in mind. Utilize data visualization. Leverage technology-driven tools such as AI logic trees to enhance the effectiveness of argumentation. Uphold ethical boundaries. Avoid turning communication into manipulation and always adhere to moral principles. Continuously study logic and cognitive science. Regular self-improvement in these fields enhances strategic precision and effectiveness. By following these principles, you can facilitate more constructive and impactful conversations. The communication techniques we discussed today are primarily aimed at addressing challenges when interacting with individuals who may be slow in thinking. In the age of information overload, the communication strategies you learn will become even more valuable. They are not just techniques for conversation, but a survival philosophy in the battlefield of cognition. In social settings, we often encounter talkative individuals. They are usually fluent, quick-witted, and can make a topic seem vibrant and colorful. However, when communicating with such people, they often convey a lot of information, and the content can become scattered, making it difficult to pinpoint the main point. If we are unclear in our thinking or vague in our responses, it's easy to get sidetracked and even be left speechless by their counter-arguments. How can we effectively capture key information and improve communication efficiency when talking to such individuals? When communicating with talkative and quick-witted individuals, it's important to ask precise questions, capture their core points and arguments, and express your own needs concisely. First, people who are good at debating and have strong logical skills may use a lot of details to support their points. During the conversation, we need to filter information, maintain clear logic, and avoid getting bogged down by irrelevant details. Focus on the core issue and pay attention to words or concepts they repeatedly mention, as these are usually the key points. Second, when communicating with such individuals, use concise language and support your points with facts and data. Respond to their core points succinctly and avoid lengthy or vague information. Third, when talking to quick-witted people, ask open-ended questions. These questions can guide them to elaborate on their views, helping you capture more key information and strengthen your persuasiveness. Clear and concise expression can earn their respect and recognition. After learning how to communicate with talkative and quick-witted individuals, you can apply these techniques in real-life scenarios. For instance, when communicating with senior management in the workplace about the market performance of a new product. First, senior managers usually focus on results and strategic value, so you should get straight to the point. For example, our new product has achieved a 15% market share within 3 months of launch. Second, use specific data and case studies to support your points and enhance persuasiveness. For example, according to market research, target users' satisfaction with the new product is 85%, significantly higher than the competitors' 70%. Third, propose strategic recommendations after presenting the results. For example, to further increase market share, I suggest increasing investment in digital marketing, which is expected to boost brand exposure by 30%. Through such practical communication skills, senior management will see that you not only focus on results, but also provide valuable strategic advice, making it easier to gain their support. In the workplace, you will often encounter negotiation scenarios. For example, if you are a salesperson discussing terms with a client, first, clearly state your core demands and bottom line. For example, our bottom line is that the price cannot be lower than $100, as this is the cost price. Second, use data to support your demands, leveraging market trends or cost analysis to strengthen your argument. For example, according to market trends, similar products are priced above $120, so our offer is already the most competitive. Third, while standing firm on your demands, propose a solution that benefits both parties. For example, if you can support us in the payment terms, we can provide additional after-sales services. Through such practical communication, the client will see you as professional and pragmatic, making it easier to reach an agreement. In academic discussions, if you are a graduate student discussing your thesis direction with your advisor, first, clearly state your core argument and avoid straying from the topic. For example, my research goal is to explore the potential of artificial intelligence in medical diagnosis. Second, cite authoritative sources to strengthen your argument, using classic theories or the latest research findings. For example, according to theoretical studies, the accuracy of AI in image recognition has surpassed that of human experts. Third, highlight the value of your research, explaining its significance and potential contributions. For example, this research can provide the medical industry with more efficient diagnostic tools, potentially reducing diagnosis time by 50%. In such discussions, your advisor will see that your research has clear goals and practical value, making it easier to gain their guidance and support. In daily life, when discussing how to balance work and life with a friend, first, get to the heart of the issue and avoid getting caught up in details. For example, the core of our discussion is how to achieve a work-life balance within limited time. Second, use facts to support your points, using specific examples to enhance persuasiveness. For example, a friend of mine saved 2 hours a day through time management and successfully balanced work and life. Third, after identifying the problem, propose concrete solutions. For example, I believe we can achieve balance by creating a daily plan and prioritizing important tasks. Through such logical communication, your friend will find your points well-reasoned and be more likely to reach a consensus. After mastering how to communicate with talkative individuals, we should avoid the following communication pitfalls. First, avoid becoming emotional. Stay calm and rational, even if the other person becomes intense. Second, avoid using absolute language in conversations, leaving room for adjustment for both parties. Third, break down complex information into smaller points and communicate them step by step, avoiding overwhelming the other person with too much information at once. Now that you've learned how to communicate with talkative individuals, here are some practical techniques for everyday life. First, use a logical framework in conversations, such as overview Dale's summary or problem analysis solution, to make your expression clearer. You can also break down complex ideas into smaller points and explain them one by one to avoid information overload. Second, use rhetorical devices like analogies or metaphors to help the other person understand complex concepts. Use questions to guide their thinking and enhance interaction. Third, control the pace of the conversation. Pause at key points to give the other person time to think and respond. Use questions or summaries to steer the conversation in a favorable direction. When communicating with talkative and quick-witted individuals, we can improve communication effectiveness through structured expression, enhanced persuasiveness, and controlled pacing. At the same time, by avoiding emotional responses and information overload, we can ensure smooth communication. These principles apply not only to the workplace, academia, daily debates, and negotiations, but also help us improve our expression and persuasiveness, making us skilled communicators. In the complex workplace environment, effective communication with leaders is often a key bridge to career development. This means that when communicating with leaders, we need to understand how to adapt to the situation and seize the right moment to gain their approval and improve the effectiveness of communication. This lesson will teach you how to take the initiative and win the trust of your leader during conversations, making your words carry more weight in the exchange. When communicating with high-status and powerful individuals, we should rely on the situation, align with their position and interests, and avoid direct confrontation or challenges to achieve the best communication results. First, before engaging in conversation, understand the other person's position, role, responsibilities, and concerns. Anticipate their needs and interests, and prepare relevant topics in advance. Second, when making suggestions, emphasize the benefits to the other party and propose specific implementation measures. Third, always maintain humility and respect during the conversation. Even if you have differing opinions, respect their response and avoid direct confrontation. Present your suggestions in a cooperative manner to show your sincerity. In the workplace, when you want to propose improvements to your superior. For example, you are a project manager at a company, and your team is currently executing a project plan approved by the leader. However, during execution, you discover some potential issues that could lead to delays or budget overruns. You need to propose improvements to the leader. First, organize the current execution status of the plan, potential issues, and specific data for improvement suggestions. Second, start the conversation by affirming the value of the current plan. Leader, the current plan has made good progress in the early stages, especially in the planning aspect. Third, after the affirmation, gently point out the potential issues in the plan. However, during execution, we found that if we don't make adjustments in the production phase, we might face delays or budget overruns. Fourth, conclude the conversation with a specific improvement plan. For example, I suggest we optimize the production phase to ensure effectiveness while controlling costs and time. In political diplomacy, when handling disagreements in international negotiations. For example, you are a diplomat negotiating with representatives from another country who insist on modifying a certain clause in the agreement, which is crucial to your side. First, understand the other party's true intentions. They may want to gain more benefits by modifying the clause. Prepare a strategy to find other areas for compromise without harming core interests. Second, start the conversation by expressing understanding of the other party's position. We understand your concerns about this clause. It is indeed an important issue. Third, analyze the specific issues during the conversation and gently point out the difficulties in modifying the clause. However, this clause is one of the core elements of the agreement, and modifying it might affect the overall balance. Fourth, Leave room for decision-making at the end of the conversation. This is just our initial suggestion. You can consider it, and we can discuss the details next time. Applying these techniques in real-life situations can help us better communicate with high-status individuals, maintaining relationships while achieving our goals. After mastering how to communicate with superiors, we should avoid the following communication pitfalls. First, avoid excessive flattery in conversations. Aligning with the other party's authority does not mean unprincipled pleasing. Excessive flattery may make the other party think you lack assertiveness, reducing their trust in you. Remember to maintain your stance and bottom line while respecting the other party. Second, be mindful of your language when communicating with powerful individuals. Avoid using overly casual or offensive language, especially in formal settings. Also, avoid using overly complex jargon or lengthy explanations to ensure concise and efficient communication. After mastering the basic methods of communicating with leaders, you can try the following practical techniques to further enhance communication effectiveness. First, learn to discern the other party's needs and intentions. Before communicating with high-status individuals, understand their personality, preferences, and current concerns to adjust your language and strategy. By observing their words and actions, judge their true intentions to better align or guide the conversation. Second, maintain a balance of confidence and humility when speaking with leaders. Show professionalism while avoiding being overly assertive. Confidence makes the other party value your opinions, while humility wins their favor. Third, when the other party is emotional or aggressive, remain silent or respond calmly to avoid escalating conflicts. Silence can sometimes create unexpected results by giving the other party space to think. When communicating with high-status and powerful individuals, rely on the situation and align with their position and interests. By proposing win-win solutions and maintaining humility and respect, you can take the initiative in conversations with influential people and gain their approval. How can you truly earn the recognition of the wealthy in business and the workplace? Are you still caught up in minor details, neglecting their focus on long-term strategies, market trends, and social impact? So, how can you elevate the conversation and establish effective communication with them by leveraging a higher perspective and stronger values? This course will guide you in understanding how to approach communication with the wealthy from a strategic standpoint, earning their trust and support. When communicating with wealthy individuals, you should focus on high-level topics or perspectives to capture their interest and resonate with them. First, avoid discussing trivial or materialistic topics. Instead, focus on high-level subjects such as strategy, trends, values, and social responsibility. By demonstrating your vision and insight, you can earn their respect and recognition. Second, show confidence and respect. Wealthy individuals often appreciate confident people. Regardless of your background, remain composed and showcase your abilities and insights. Respect their time and space, avoiding unnecessary interruptions or excessive flattery. Third, wealthy people are more likely to engage with those who can provide value. You can demonstrate your value by sharing professional knowledge, resources, or connections. However, avoid directly asking for resources or help, as this may make you appear overly opportunistic. After learning how to communicate with wealthy individuals, apply these techniques in real-life scenarios. For example, in the workplace, you often encounter situations where you need to negotiate with wealthy clients or partners. First, understand their needs by researching their industry background, company strategy, and recent developments to find a relevant entry point. Second, discuss industry trends, analyzing the industry from a macro perspective to demonstrate foresight. Third, propose the value of the collaboration, linking it to their long-term interests and emphasizing strategic significance over short-term gains. In workplace communication, when presenting to wealthy leaders or investors, first, focus on strategic value, analyzing the long-term benefits and brand value of the project, rather than minor details. For example, the core value of this project lies in its ability to enhance our brand influence, especially among young consumers. Second, use data to support your points, citing authoritative data or successful cases to strengthen your argument. According to market research, brand loyalty among young consumers is declining, and our project can regain their attention through innovative marketing strategies. Third, provide clear recommendations, outlining the next steps to demonstrate your professionalism and execution ability. I suggest we proceed in 3 phases: market testing, full-scale promotion, and brand upgrade. What do you think of this plan? In social settings, such as high-end social events, when communicating with wealthy individuals, first, choose appropriate topics, discussing cultural, artistic, or philosophical subjects to showcase your taste and insight. For example, recently, I read a book on Eastern philosophy, and the concept of governing by doing nothing was quite enlightening. Do you think this idea applies to modern business management? Second, encourage them to share their experiences by asking questions or sharing insights to spark their interest. I noticed you have a deep interest in culture and art. Have you seen any of Picasso's recent works? I find his creative philosophy quite unique. Third, find common interests to deepen the conversation and build a connection. Your perspective on art resonates with me. In fact, art and business share many similarities, such as the need for creativity and attention to detail. After mastering how to communicate with wealthy individuals, avoid the following communication pitfalls. First, do not flaunt your wealth or achievements, as this may cause resentment. Second, avoid being overly opportunistic. Do not directly discuss money or benefits, as this may make you appear short-sighted. Third, avoid making the other person feel that you are trying too hard to please them. Even when discussing high-level topics, remain sincere and respectful. After mastering the basic methods of communicating with wealthy individuals, try the following practical techniques to further enhance communication effectiveness. First, focus on building long-term trust and relationships rather than immediate gains. Continuously provide value and support to deepen the relationship over time. Second, pay attention to etiquette and appearance, as wealthy individuals are often sensitive to details. Dress appropriately, maintain elegant manners, and be punctual. Third, actively understand their interests and needs, finding common topics or collaboration opportunities. Use questions to guide them to share rather than dominating the conversation. When communicating with wealthy individuals, focus on high-level topics to showcase your vision and insight, earning their recognition. By emphasizing strategy, trends, and values, you can build deeper connections with wealthy individuals, achieving effective communication and collaboration. In various social settings, such as daily life and the workplace, we often encounter people from different social classes, including those with limited financial means. When communicating with such individuals, improper communication methods can lead to misunderstandings or even cause resistance. Therefore, mastering communication skills with people from low-income backgrounds is essential for effective interaction. So how can we effectively convey information and reach a consensus in such conversations? People experiencing poverty or financial difficulties are often more focused on immediate survival issues, such as income and basic living needs. They may not be interested in high-level or abstract topics, but instead value practical benefits and solutions. In specific communication, first, treat them with equality and respect, avoiding any sense of superiority or pity. Second, patiently listen to their stories and needs, offering emotional support and understanding their living conditions and mental state. Third, use positive language and actions to encourage them to face difficulties with optimism. After learning these techniques, apply them in real-life scenarios and strategies. For example, in the workplace, you may need to communicate with colleagues or subordinates who have lower incomes. First, focus on their career development. Understand their professional goals and challenges, and provide practical advice or opportunities. You can have one-on-one conversations to learn about their career plans and development needs. Second, offer them skill training opportunities, recommending internal company training programs or online learning platforms to enhance their professional abilities. Third, create opportunities for promotion by recommending them to higher-ups or helping them apply for higher positions, thereby increasing their income levels. For instance, when volunteering in community service, you may encounter situations where you need to assist economically disadvantaged families. First, during conversations, mention community resources, such as job opportunities and skill training programs. For example, we understand that many low-income families in the community face employment challenges. Second, inform them about free vocational training programs to help improve their employability. For example, we have decided to provide free vocational training to help economically disadvantaged individuals find better jobs. Third, clearly explain the services available and establish a support network. For example, we have also organized a volunteer team to regularly provide free home appliance repair services for low-income families. In daily interactions, when communicating with friends or neighbors facing financial difficulties, first, you can start by engaging in casual conversations to understand their current situation and challenges. Identify their specific needs and offer help within your ability. For example, you could say, "I know you've been looking for a job recently. A friend of mine's company is hiring. I'd be happy to recommend you." Second, pay attention to their real needs during conversations and provide practical assistance accordingly, such as job recommendations or resource sharing. You might say, "I also found out about a free vocational training program that can help you improve your skills. Would you be interested?" Third, maintain regular contact to keep track of their well-being and offer ongoing support. In conversations, you can express, "If you ever need any help, feel free to reach out to me. I'll do my best to support you." This helps establish a long-term connection. After mastering how to communicate with people from low-income backgrounds, avoid the following communication pitfalls. First, do not adopt a condescending tone. Avoid showing superiority or pity. Instead, offer help with an equal and respectful attitude. Second, focus on practical solutions. Make sure the help or advice you offer is practical and actionable, avoiding empty talk or ineffective support. Third, maintain sincerity and respect in communication. Be mindful of boundaries and respect their choices and way of life. After mastering the basic methods of communicating with people from low-income backgrounds, try the following practical techniques to further enhance communication effectiveness. First, when offering suggestions, avoid directly pointing out problems. Instead, use a more tactful approach. Second, remain calm or silent when the other person becomes emotional or defensive, avoiding escalation of conflicts. Third, provide long-term support and solutions to help them achieve self-reliance. When communicating with people experiencing poverty or financial difficulties, focus on practical benefits, pay attention to their needs and challenges, and offer feasible help or advice. By engaging with them on equal terms, we can build deeper connections and achieve effective collaboration. This approach also reminds us to pay attention to the needs of marginalized groups, promoting social equity and harmony. In interpersonal and workplace communication, earning the respect of ordinary people doesn't depend on your job title, but on whether your words and actions earn their recognition. So how can you build influence through conversation in daily interactions and make others genuinely respect you? This communication skills course will teach you how to shape your influence and earn respect when engaging with ordinary people. When conversing with ordinary people, they are more likely to respect those who are willing to listen and engage in equal dialogue. Therefore, when speaking with them, firstly, you should avoid using language with a sense of superiority and use polite language to communicate with them in an equal and respectful manner. Secondly, when the other person expresses themselves, you should focus on listening and not interrupt casually, showing a sense of importance towards their viewpoints. And try to think from the other person's perspective, understand their feelings and needs. Thirdly, be mindful of your body language. Maintain a friendly demeanor by smiling, making eye contact, and adopting open and respectful postures to convey your appreciation for the conversation. Now, let's apply these principles to real-life scenarios and strategies. When interacting with ordinary people in the workplace, such as collaborating with colleagues, firstly, even if you have greater skills or hold a higher position, avoid displaying a sense of superiority in conversations. You can say, "Let's discuss this together and find a solution." Secondly, in communication, you can actively share your experience and resources, help colleagues make progress together, and solve problems together. For example, I have encountered a similar situation before, and this is my solution. I hope it will be helpful to you. By fostering effective communication, you can maximize teamwork efficiency and collaboration. In social life, such as when spending time with friends, imagine a friend who recently lost their job and is feeling down. You can, firstly, express your concern and ask about their situation. For example, "I heard you recently left your job. How are you feeling?" Secondly, listen patiently without interrupting or offering unsolicited advice. You might say, "I know this must be really tough for you. Would you like to talk about it?" Thirdly, offer practical help or suggestions when needed. For instance, "I know some people who are hiring. Would you like me to recommend you?" When interacting with family members, such as when your spouse is under a lot of work pressure and feeling stressed, you can, firstly, ask about their situation, and show your concern. For example, you've been looking really exhausted lately. Is work stressing you out? Secondly, listen patiently and offer emotional support. You might say, I know you've been working really hard lately. I want you to know that I'm always here for you. Thirdly, provide practical help when needed. For instance, if you need, I can take care of some household chores to lighten your load. Through these real-life examples and dialogue scenarios, we can see that communicating with ordinary people is not just a social strategy, but also a valuable life skill. When communicating with ordinary people, it's important not only to learn specific techniques, but also to avoid these 3 common mistakes. Firstly, avoid displaying a sense of superiority. Instead, offer help with a respectful and equal attitude. Secondly, focus on practical solutions. Ensure that the help or advice you provide is actionable and effective, rather than just empty talk or meaningless support. Thirdly, maintain respect throughout the conversation. Even if your intention is to help, be mindful not to make the other person feel like they are receiving charity. When communicating with ordinary people, once you have mastered the basic methods, you can try applying these 3 practical techniques. Firstly, in communication, you can use polite and friendly language. Avoid an indifferent attitude and refrain from blaming or criticizing the other person, even if you have different opinions. Instead, express your views in a respectful and harmonious manner. Secondly, you can proactively provide help when others need it. Whether it's material support or emotional encouragement, be willing to share your resources to help others grow and improve. Thirdly, when communicating with ordinary people, avoid using a commanding tone that is uncomfortable. Instead, demonstrate your commitment through actions and express gratitude in a respectful manner. When interacting with ordinary people, the most important thing is to treat them with equality, respect, and kindness. Everyone has their own value and dignity, and we should approach others with sincerity and humility to build harmonious relationships. In the workplace, we often encounter brave individuals who dare to break the rules and are skilled at innovation. They are quick thinkers and ready to face challenges. How can we communicate effectively with them and display confidence in our conversations to earn their recognition? Brave individuals value action. When discussing problems with them, be proactive in offering solutions, face challenges head-on, and take responsibility for your actions. First, courageous people typically prefer direct communication. Avoid beating around the bush in the conversation. Clearly express your opinions and needs. Define your goals and expectations in the conversation so they can quickly understand your intentions. Second, brave individuals take pride in their courage and decisiveness. Acknowledge their bold actions during discussions. Encourage them to keep taking initiative and show support for their decisions and plans. Third, provide them with the necessary resources and support to help them accomplish their tasks. When they face challenges, offer emotional encouragement to boost their confidence. In workplace management, if you are a team leader and need to motivate your team to complete a challenging project, first, when communicating with bold and decisive team members, be clear and direct about the project's goals and expectations. For example, you could say, "This project is challenging, but I believe in your ability to lead the team to success. Your decisiveness and courage are key to achieving our goals." Second, acknowledge their courage and decisiveness skills, saying something like, You handled similar tasks exceptionally well in the past, and I have no doubt you'll succeed again this time. Third, at the end of the conversation, offer your support, adding, "If you encounter any difficulties, don't hesitate to reach out. I'll coordinate resources to support you." This approach builds trust and support, reigniting their motivation and confidence so they can tackle the project decisively and complete it on time. In the workplace, you will also encounter business negotiation scenarios. Suppose you are the sales director of an advertising company and are negotiating a partnership with a bold, risk-taking client. The client is hesitant about your proposal, but you know they enjoy a challenge. First, you can directly tell the user, "Our proposal carries some risk, but the market potential is immense. Your company is known for embracing innovation, and this collaboration is a great opportunity to showcase your decisiveness." Second, reinforce their courage and leadership style, saying, "I heard that last year, you boldly launched a new product, and it was a huge success." That kind of boldness is something we truly admire. Third, motivate them to take action, adding, "If you decide now, we can launch the project immediately and secure a strong market position before the peak season." In friendships, suppose your friend is courageous and always willing to help others, and you're organizing a charity event where you need their support. First, you can start by saying, "We're organizing a charity event next weekend and need some volunteers. I know you've always been passionate about helping others. Would you be able to join us?" Second, acknowledge their courage by saying, "You did an outstanding job at the last community event. Everyone remembers your contribution." Third, motivate them with encouraging words. "This event is very meaningful, and your participation will benefit even more people." Using this direct communication approach in conversation makes it easier for the other person to respond decisively and actively engage in the event. When communicating with courageous individuals, it's important not only to learn specific techniques, but also to avoid these three common mistakes. First, avoid hesitation in conversation. Brave individuals are usually decisive. If you appear hesitant during the conversation, they may lose patience. Second, respect their autonomy in decision-making. Courageous people prefer to make their own choices. Avoid interfering too much with how they express themselves, as this may make them feel untrusted. Third, refrain from excessive criticism. Over-criticizing can undermine a brave person's confidence and negatively impact their motivation. When communicating with courageous individuals, once you've mastered the basic techniques, you can further improve your approach with these three practical strategies. First, show unwavering determination when communicating with courageous individuals. Even if your views differ, confidently express your opinions. Second, remain calm and rational under pressure. When tension arises in a conversation, avoid reacting emotionally. Instead, rely on data and logic to support your arguments, making it easier to gain the other person's recognition. Third, be direct and to the point. Brave individuals prefer straightforward communication. Express your thoughts and needs clearly without unnecessary preamble. When communicating with courageous individuals, you should focus on being direct, affirming, and supportive, using clear and concise language, acknowledging their bravery, providing necessary support, respecting their decisions, offering timely feedback, and engaging in joint decision-making can help build strong communication and collaboration. This approach not only empowers them to reach their full potential, but also fosters mutual growth for both the team and individuals. In the workplace and everyday life, making mistakes is common. However, mistakes often come with varying degrees of responsibility, emotions, and consequences. Therefore, when communicating with someone who has made a mistake, it is essential to have keen insight and sharp language to directly address the core issue. If handled improperly, the conversation may lead to the other person avoiding responsibility or even straining the relationship. This lesson will teach you how to get straight to the point when communicating with someone who has made a mistake. When communicating with someone who has made a mistake, rely on a direct and precise approach to improve communication efficiency and identify the root cause of the issue. First, listen to their perspective and explanation. Try to understand their standpoint and motivations. This helps build trust and lays a solid foundation for effective communication. Second, encourage them to acknowledge their mistake and take corrective action. Express your support and trust, making them feel that you are there to help rather than to criticize. Third, offer constructive solutions alongside pointing out the issue. Help them see opportunities for improvement and practical ways to move forward, rather than just focusing on criticism. For example, in the workplace, you may encounter performance improvement issues. When an employee's work performance is not up to standard, first, identify the root cause through keen observation and initiate a conversation. A manager can say, "I have noticed that you're facing some challenges with certain tasks. Let's analyze the reasons together and develop an improvement plan." This approach not only highlights the issue, but also provides support. Second, acknowledge their strengths and avoid discouraging them. For example, your communication skills have always been strong, but you're still getting familiar with this new role. We can arrange a training session to help you better understand the work. How do you feel about that? Offering effective solutions like this can help the employee improve their skills and confidence. In family education, you often face challenges in correcting children's bad habits. For example, if your child is addicted to mobile games and their academic performance is declining, you might notice that they spend excessive time gaming while neglecting homework and studying. First, identify the root cause through careful observation. You can say,
I know you've been enjoying this game a lot lately, but I've noticed that your homework has been taking longer to complete. Do you think it might be because you're spending too much time playing?
Second, acknowledge their feelings and avoid direct criticism. Instead of blaming them, ask,
Do you find studying a bit boring? You've always been smart. You just need to manage your time better.
This approach helps the child feel understood rather than criticized. Third, offer specific solutions and involve them in decision-making. For example,
how about we set up a plan together? You can play for 30 minutes as a reward after finishing your homework. What do you think?
This encouraged cooperation and helps the child develop better self-discipline. In life, when spending time with friends, you may encounter situations where conflicts need to be resolved. For example, if your friend has been consistently late arriving, 30 minutes late even for important plans, you might feel frustrated, but don't want to damage your friendship. First, address the issue as a matter of time management. You could say, "Have you been really busy lately? I've noticed you always seem to be rushing." Second, show concern rather than blame and offer flexible solutions. You might say, "I'm a bit worried. Have you been dealing with something difficult? Maybe next time we can plan to leave earlier. Or if your schedule is tight, we can adjust our plans. What do you think?" By using thoughtful and constructive communication, your friend will feel respected and supported, making them more likely to cooperate and improve their punctuality. When communicating with someone who has made a mistake, it's not only important to learn specific techniques, but also to be aware of 3 key communication pitfalls to avoid. First, avoid directly criticizing the other person's mistakes or using accusatory language during the conversation. Direct accusations can trigger a defensive reaction and even provoke negative emotions, causing the communication to break down. Second, during the conversation, make sure not to display anger, impatience, or contempt. An emotional attitude can make the other person feel attacked, which will close off communication. Third, don't ignore the root cause of the issue. If you focus only on the surface-level mistakes without analyzing the underlying problem, similar errors may happen again. Once you have mastered the basic communication strategies, you can take it a step further by learning 3 practical techniques to enhance your approach. First, in practical communication, you need to express the issue clearly and base your discussion on facts. Avoid being overly indirect. Not only should you point out the problem, but also take the time to understand the other person's thoughts and provide solutions. This helps them quickly recognize their own issues and find ways to improve, leading to effective communication. Second, avoid directly pointing out the other person's mistakes during the conversation. Instead, guide them to self-reflection by asking thoughtful questions that encourage them to think about their actions or decisions. Third, start by acknowledging some of their points to reduce their defensive mindset, then share your perspective. By applying these practical communication techniques, you can maximize communication efficiency and achieve more productive exchanges. Engaging with someone who has made a mistake is not just a communication skill, it is also a reflection of emotional intelligence. By utilizing sharp insight, flexible communication strategies, and constructive feedback, we can effectively identify problems, resolve conflicts, and help the other person grow in various complex situations. In traditional Chinese thought, qi is seen as the fundamental element that makes up all things in the universe. In the human body, the movement of qi is closely linked to both physiological and psychological states. By paying attention to subtle changes in a person's tone, intonation, and breath while they speak, we can infer their inner emotional state and understand the true intentions behind their words. This course will guide you in observing the inner spirit, emotions, and personality reflected in a person's breath. By analyzing changes in their tone, you can gain insight into their psychological state. To effectively observe other psychology through changes in tone, it requires both theoretical learning and practical practice to gradually develop sharp insight and communication skills. First, develop the habit of active listening. Focus fully on the speaker and listen attentively. Pay attention not only to the content of their words, but also try to note their linguistic patterns. Second, observe body language, facial expressions, and breathing patterns. In conversations, observe the other person's body language, facial expressions, and breathing rhythm, as these can provide additional insights. Third, identify emotions in tone and intonation. When listening to someone, try to discern the emotions in their tone. Pay attention to changes in pitch and tone to judge the other person's emotional state and underlying intentions. For example, in workplace communication, when a subordinate presents a report and their tone is hesitant, you can take the following steps. First, you can use changes in their tone to gauge their lack of confidence and provide timely support and guidance. For instance, you might say, "I noticed your tone was a bit hesitant during your report. Are you facing any challenges? By listening carefully to their tone and pitch, you can assess their emotional state. Second, guide your subordinate to express their true thoughts by asking probing questions like, "What aspects of this plan do you think need improvement?" This encourages them to be more open and reflective about the issue. Third, at the end of the conversation, provide a specific solution to address the concerns or challenges that have been raised. In business negotiations, you can also use tonal changes to your advantage. First, by paying attention to shifts in tone, you can gauge the other party's bottom line. If their tone becomes more assertive when discussing a particular condition, it's important to adjust your negotiation strategy accordingly. Second, you can ask exploratory questions to better understand their true intentions and propose alternative solutions. For example, if we make a concession on this point, how would you feel about that? In interpersonal communication, if your friend's tone is downcast, they may be facing difficulties. First, you can sense your friend's emotional state through changes in their tone during the conversation and take the initiative to express concern. For example, you might ask, "You seem a bit down lately. Have you been facing any challenges?" This shows that you are attentive to their mood and care about their well-being. Second, offer support through active listening and comforting words to help alleviate their stress. In the conversation, you could say, "I believe you can handle this. If you need help, just let me know." This not only offers reassurance, but also strengthens your interpersonal relationship by showing your willingness to support them in tough times. After mastering the ability to observe someone's psychology through changes in tone, it's important to keep the following 3 communication taboos in mind. First, avoid over-interpreting. Over-analyzing the other person's tone or pitch can lead to misinterpreting their true intentions, causing you to respond inappropriately during the conversation. Second, don't focus solely on the tone and intonation, while neglecting the actual content of the message. The content is the core of communication, and overlooking it can lead to misunderstandings or missing important information. Third, avoid emotional reactions during the conversation. Emotional responses can escalate conflicts and disrupt the communication atmosphere, making it harder to reach a mutual understanding. Observing others' psychology through tone changes is not a one-time action, but an ongoing process that takes place throughout the conversation. After mastering the basic skills, you can practice the following 3 practical techniques. First, in the conversation, you should not only pay attention to the tone and pitch of the other person to assess their emotional state, but also notice their implied meaning, trying to infer their true intentions. Second, analyze the context of the conversation, considering the background, the relationship between the parties, and the current situation, to judge whether the other person's tone is appropriate. You can also validate your assessment by asking questions and providing feedback to check if your judgment is accurate. Third, learn to guide the other person in the conversation. Through questioning and guiding, encourage them to express their thoughts and feelings more deeply, confirming their true intentions. To learn how to observe others' psychology through tonal changes, you need to focus on active listening, analyze tone and pitch, and interpret the implied meaning within the context. Through continuous practice and reflection, you will gradually improve your ability to recognize tonal shifts. Mastering the observation of tone changes in communication can help you understand others better, enhance communication efficiency, strengthen relationships, and give you an advantage in complex social settings. Chinese traditional philosophy believes that there is a close connection between a person's inner, spiritual state and their external appearance. When a person is in different psychological states, their body generates corresponding physiological responses, which are reflected externally. A person's emotions, thoughts, and character are expressed through facial expressions, demeanor, and other body language. In communication with others, you can look through body language to uncover the true expression and intentions of the other person, allowing you to understand their real purpose. To master the skill of quickly understanding someone's psychology, you need to practice improving your observation abilities in daily life through specific exercises. First, in communication, maintain focus. You need to listen not only to what the other person is saying, but also pay attention to their facial expressions, demeanor, and changes in their eye movements. Second, develop sensitivity to subtle changes in the other person's communication. This means being able to quickly detect shifts in their emotional state. Third, use external body language to sense the other person's emotional state and respond appropriately. Adjust your tone and expression based on their emotions, and use empathy to show understanding and care for their feelings. In workplace communication, for example, during a team meeting, you can observe the body language of team members to gauge their level of satisfaction. First, if you notice that a team member has a negative expression, crosses their arms, and their tone during speech seems dismissive, these external signs can suggest that they may be feeling overwhelmed or dissatisfied with the task allocation. Second, after making these observations, you can communicate with the individual directly.
I noticed that you seemed a bit disengaged during the meeting. Do you have any thoughts on the current work arrangements?
Third, through communication with the team member, you can understand their true thoughts, address concerns, and adjust work arrangements accordingly to improve the team's collaboration efficiency. In customer service, if a customer is dissatisfied with a product, and their expression is angry, and their tone is agitated, you can, first, observe the customer's facial expression and tone to gauge their attitude toward the service and try to infer the core issue they are experiencing. Second, after your observations, you can engage in communication with them. For example,
I'm really sorry for the inconvenience caused. I understand your frustration. Could you please tell me specifically what aspects of the product are not meeting your expectations?
Third, after the customer expresses their core concerns, you should quickly calm their emotions and offer a solution to regain their trust. When reading someone's true expressions through body language, you not only need to learn specific techniques, but also be mindful of the following 3 communication taboos. First, avoid over-interpreting the other person's facial expressions and body language, as this could lead to misjudging their true intentions. Always consider the context and the situation when analyzing their expressions and body language. Second, do not point out someone's facial expressions or emotional issues in public. It's better to address such matters in a private setting to protect their self-esteem. Third, don't focus solely on the other person's facial expressions and body language while neglecting their feelings and needs. While observing their body language, it's important to show understanding and concern for them. After mastering the basic techniques, you can try learning the following 3 advanced skills. First, use open-ended questions to guide the other person to express themselves. Through feedback and summarizing, confirm their true intentions and encourage them to express their thoughts and feelings more deeply. Second, based on the other person's facial expressions and emotions. Speculate on their possible reactions and needs. Prepare solutions in advance and adjust your communication strategy accordingly. Third, after each communication, reflect on your performance and summarize the lessons learned. Record your observing subtle cues experiences from each conversation, analyzing what went well, and identifying areas for improvement. This skill of observing body language to understand someone's true intentions is a key technique in the Guiguzi method of recognizing people, which emphasizes interpreting a person's inner state and intentions by observing their facial expressions, gestures, and changes in eye movements. In practical life, mastering the skill of observing subtle cues can help us better understand others, improve communication efficiency, strengthen interpersonal relationships, and take the initiative in complex social situations. Observing a person's true intentions through conversation is an essential method in the art of understanding others. The core of this technique lies in comprehensively analyzing a person's words, actions, and behavioral patterns to uncover thoughts they do not explicitly express. According to Guiguzi, a person's external behavior is a reflection of their inner world. By carefully observing and analyzing their speech and expressions, one can gain insight into their ambitions, character, and true motives. In real-life communication, you should pay attention to the key topics a person frequently discusses and observe their speech logic, as well as the emotions conveyed in their words. First, focus on details such as their verbal expressions, facial expressions, and body language to determine whether their ambitions are firm. For example, observe whether their eyes remain steady and their tone confident when discussing their goals, or if they seem hesitant and vague. Second, use hypothetical questions or simulated scenarios to test their reactions. By analyzing how they respond, you can assess whether their ambitions are solid and if they possess adaptability. Third, learn about their experiences, educational background, and career choices to infer their long-term goals and values. In the workplace, you can assess whether a job candidate is suitable for a position and understand their career goals and motivations through conversation. First, guide the discussion with targeted questions such as, "What is your career plan for the next 5 years?" Then, observe their response and behavior. For example, if they say, "I hope to specialize in marketing and eventually lead a team to tackle challenging projects," you can assess their ambition by noting whether their eye contact is steady, their tone confident, and their goals clearly defined. Second, introduce a relevant scenario to further evaluate their thinking. Ask, if the company assigns you a marketing project with a limited budget, how would you handle it? If they respond, I would analyze the target audience, optimize resource allocation, and explore cost-effective strategies such as social media and word-of-mouth marketing. You can gain insight into their problem-solving skills and determination. Third, analyze their responses to evaluate their overall abilities and determine whether they are a good fit for the role, ensuring that the conversation fulfills its intended purpose. If you are a department manager looking to understand your team's true thoughts and motivate them, consider the following strategies. First, guide the conversation with targeted questions such as, "Are you interested in your current work? What are your career goals?" By listening to responses like, "I'm very interested in data analysis and hope to become a data analyst in the future," you can assess their true aspirations. Second, observe their behavior during discussions. If a team member speaks enthusiastically about data analysis, but appears disengaged when discussing their current tasks, you can infer their genuine interests and career ambitions. Third, create situational questions to further evaluate their potential. Ask, if you were in charge of a data analysis project, how would you plan it? If they demonstrate strong expertise in their response, consider assigning them more data analysis projects and providing relevant training opportunities to support their growth. Interactions. If you meet a new friend at a social event and want to determine whether they are worth building a deeper connection with, consider the following approach. First, ask questions like, what do you enjoy doing in your free time? What are your future plans? If they respond, I love reading and traveling. In the future, I hope to open a bookstore and promote culture. This indicates that they have clear future goals. Second, observe their words and behavior. If you notice their eyes light up and their tone becomes passionate when discussing the bookstore, and they can describe its positioning and operational strategy in detail, you can infer that they are an ambitious and goal-oriented person. And third, analyze their background through conversation. If you learn that they have worked in the cultural industry and have been actively preparing for their bookstore by studying management and marketing, it shows that they are not only ambitious, but also action-oriented, making them a valuable connection worth nurturing. When trying to uncover someone's true thoughts and intentions through conversation, it's essential not only to learn specific techniques, but also to avoid the following 3 communication pitfalls. First, avoid making subjective assumptions. Do not jump to conclusions based on first impressions or limited information. Instead, conduct a comprehensive observation and analysis. Second, do not pressure the other person. When asking questions, avoid being too direct or forceful, as this may cause discomfort or defensiveness. Third, avoid revealing your true intentions. If the other person becomes aware that you are deliberately trying to analyze them, they may become guarded, making it harder to gain genuine insights. When trying to uncover someone's true thoughts and intentions through conversation, after mastering the basic techniques, you can further enhance your skills with the following 3 advanced techniques. First, learn to engage in deep listening to capture the other person's true intentions. Pay attention not only to what they say, but also to what they leave unsaid. Second, strategically use silence in the conversation. Observe whether the other person voluntarily adds more information or adjusts their stance. This can create psychological pressure, prompting them to reveal their true thoughts. Third, analyze their behavior in different settings. By observing how they act in various environments, you can assess whether their ambitions and intentions remain consistent. Using conversation to discern someone's true thoughts is a fundamental principle in Guiguzi's art of understanding people. It emphasizes the importance of observation, questioning, testing, and analysis to uncover a person's aspirations and intentions. In real-life scenarios, whether in the workplace, social interactions, or business negotiations, this strategy can be applied to assess individuals, make informed decisions, and achieve strategic goals. In communication with others, you can look beyond the surface to detect the true emotions, motivations, and intentions hidden deep within them. People often conceal their true selves for various reasons, such as self-protection, gaining advantages, or avoiding conflicts. This lesson will teach you how to break through these superficial disguises in conversation, test the other person's real needs, and recognize their underlying secrets. When conversing with others, you can uncover their hidden true intentions or emotions by observing their words and actions, testing their reactions, and analyzing their background. The key lies in seeing beyond the surface to gain insight into their inner world. First, by paying attention to details such as language, facial expressions, and body movements during the conversation, you can capture the emotions or intentions they may be trying to conceal. Once you understand their true intentions, you can take the initiative in communication and develop more targeted strategies. Second, you can test their reactions by asking questions or setting up scenarios to reveal their genuine thoughts. Third, strategically maintaining silence at the right moments allows you to observe whether they voluntarily provide additional information or adjust their attitude. This helps you gain insight into their underlying motivations, resolve conflicts more effectively, and reach a consensus. In workplace communication, you can assess a person's true intentions by observing their words and actions. For example, during a negotiation, if a client makes vague requests about contract terms and speaks ambiguously, they may be intentionally concealing key information. First, pay attention to details such as the client's tone, facial expressions, and body language. For instance, if their tone suddenly becomes hurried when discussing a specific term, it may indicate a particular concern or requirement regarding that clause. Second, guide the client to express their true intentions by asking open-ended questions. For example, what are your specific thoughts on this part of the contract? We can adjust it based on your needs. Third, adapt flexibly based on the client's responses. If they are price-sensitive, emphasize the long-term value of the project. If they are more concerned about delivery time, propose a phased delivery plan. By using these communication strategies, you can achieve the ultimate negotiation goal. In business negotiations and client discussions, if the other party expresses dissatisfaction with the price, first, observe their facial expressions and behavior during the conversation, and ask questions such as, "What are your main concerns about the price?" If they respond, "We want to control costs," but their tone suggests concerns about quality, take note of this underlying message. Second, probe further. If we can offer a more flexible payment plan while ensuring quality, how would you feel about that? If their attitude noticeably softens, it indicates they are open to discussion. Third, through the conversation, you can determine that their hidden concern is not merely about cost, but rather about quality. Ultimately, by emphasizing the quality advantages, you can secure the cooperation. In social interactions, when you meet a new friend who appears very enthusiastic, first, observe their words and actions. If you notice that they exaggerate their tone when discussing certain topics and frequently highlight their own achievements, take note of these patterns. Second, test them in conversation by asking,
Do you enjoy helping others?
If they respond, "Of course, I often help my friends," but their tone suggests a sense of self-promotion, this could be revealing. Third, through the conversation, you can assess that they may have a hidden self-centered motive rather than purely altruistic intentions. When testing the other party's true needs and uncovering hidden intentions, you not only need to learn specific techniques, but also be mindful of the following 3 communication taboos. First, avoid subjective assumptions. Do not jump to conclusions based solely on first impressions or partial information. Instead, observe and analyze from multiple perspectives. Second, do not ignore nonverbal cues. Besides spoken language, pay attention to body language, facial expressions, and other nonverbal signals, as these often reveal true thoughts more accurately. Third, do not rush to conclusions. Understanding people is a long-term process. Avoid making hasty judgments, and instead verify insights through repeated observation and interactions. After mastering basic techniques, you can try learning the following 3 practical strategies. First, use the strategy of retreating to advance, and guide the other party to reveal themselves. By showing vulnerability or making concessions, you lower their guard, making it easier for them to expose their true thoughts. Second, share similar experiences to create emotional resonance. By discussing experiences that you and the other person have in common, you can evoke their emotions and encourage them to share more. Pay close attention to their emotional fluctuations during the conversation, as these may reveal hidden motives or intentions. Third, subtly mirror the other person's behavior. By imitating their tone, facial expressions, or body language, you create a subtle sense of rapport. This helps them feel more at ease, making them more likely to disclose their true thoughts. Testing the other party's true needs and uncovering hidden intentions relies on observation, probing, and analysis to reveal their concealed emotions or motives. In real-life communication, this strategy can be applied in various situations to see through disguises, take the initiative, and resolve conflicts. Additionally, it helps in understanding the other person's true thoughts, enhancing emotional intelligence and insight. Guiguzi's communication and people-reading techniques emphasize assessing a person's ability to handle problems and affairs. This requires observing how an individual approaches and resolves issues in communication scenarios to gain a comprehensive understanding of their character and capabilities. By analyzing specific topics and tasks during conversations, one can determine whether the other party possesses the necessary skills and whether they have clear viewpoints and stances. This lesson will teach you how to evaluate a person's problem-solving abilities during communication. In communication, it's important to observe the other party's way of expression. A person who can adjust their words according to the situation and provide appropriate responses demonstrates strong adaptability in communication and has an advantage in handling matters. First, maintain calmness and composure during communication. Avoid rushing to express your own viewpoints and ideas. Observe the other party's actions, emotional state, and ability to handle affairs before making a suitable response. Second, adjust your communication strategy based on the other party's reactions to avoid direct confrontation. You can guide them to reveal more information by asking questions or giving subtle hints. Third, avoid revealing your true thoughts too easily to prevent being exploited. You can confuse the other party by conveying a mix of true and false information, making it difficult for them to guess your true intentions. In workplace collaboration, if you need to select a project leader from 2 candidates in your team, first, observe their behavior and actions. Candidate A is active in the team, good at communication, but sometimes lacks patience. Candidate B, on the other hand, is meticulous, but rarely expresses their thoughts proactively. Second, you can test their abilities through conversation. For example, ask,
"If the project falls behind schedule, how would you adjust?"
Candidate A answers, "I would immediately organize the team for overtime to ensure the task is completed on time." Candidate B answers, "I would first analyze the reasons for the delay, Then reallocate tasks, and if necessary, adjust the project plan. Third, based on their answers, you can assess their abilities. While candidate A has strong execution skills, they lack a broader perspective. Candidate B, however, demonstrates better analytical and strategic thinking. In family matters, if you want to understand whether your child has the ability to independently handle life affairs when attending university, first, observe your child's behavior and actions, noting whether they can reasonably manage their study and life schedules during school, and show a sense of responsibility in family matters. Second, you can ask a question.
If you encounter the dual pressure of studies and life in university, how would you handle it?
If your child answers,
I would first create a schedule to balance study and rest time, and also seek advice from senior students or teachers to ensure I can manage everything well.
Third, based on your child's answers and daily behavior, you can assess that they have strong self-management and problem-solving abilities. When assessing someone's ability to handle issues and tasks in communication, it's important to not only learn specific methods, but also to be aware of the following 3 communication taboos. First, avoid expressing your opinions too directly, especially criticism or opposing views. This may harm the other person's self-esteem and trigger their resistance or negative emotions. Even when you disagree, it's better to express your thoughts in a tactful and indirect way. First, avoid expressing your opinions too directly, especially criticism or opposing views. This may harm the other person's self-esteem and trigger their resistance or negative emotions. Even when you disagree, it's better to express your thoughts in a tactful and indirect way. Second, avoid being emotional during the conversation. Losing control of your emotions can reveal your weaknesses and limit your ability to act, making you vulnerable to manipulation. Second, avoid being emotional during the conversation. Losing control of your emotions can reveal your weaknesses and limit your ability to act, making you vulnerable to manipulation. Third, don't be overly confident in your speech. Avoid underestimating the other person, as this can lead to failure. Always stay cautious and recognize that overconfidence can be a pitfall. After mastering the basic techniques, you can try learning these 3 advanced skills. First, build trust through emotional connection in the conversation, allowing the other party to relax their guard. Use psychological tactics to subtly influence the other party into making decisions that benefit you. Second, only disclose necessary information during your communication and avoid revealing key content. Create an information gap and use the asymmetry of information to gain an advantage. Observe how the other party handles the situation with limited information. Third, leverage the external environment or trends during the conversation to advance your plan and improve the handling of tasks. This allows you to align your strategy with prevailing circumstances and move things forward more effectively. Guiguzi's approach to handling matters is a form of high-level wisdom. By reading verbal and nonverbal cues, concealing intentions, and adapting flexibly, one can maintain control in complex situations. Integrating these strategies into modern life and work can help individuals and organizations achieve long-term success. The content a person expresses in communication can reflect their character. By observing their words and actions, one can assess their character and worldview. People with noble character typically convey positive and constructive messages. On the other hand, if someone frequently spreads negative emotions in their speech, it could indicate issues with their character. This course will teach you how to assess someone's character and understand their mindset during communication. To assess someone's character and worldview, you need to focus on their verbal communication, as it can directly showcase their cultivation and manners. Polite tone and appropriate facial expressions can reflect a person's character. First, observe their behavior in different contexts, such as in the workplace, social gatherings, and family environments. This will give you a comprehensive understanding of how they express their character. Second, engage in deep conversations with them on topics like values, life goals, and moral beliefs. For example, ask them about their understanding of fairness and justice, or their opinion on current moral issues in society, to get insight into their ethical standards and values. Third, pay attention to the other party's performance in terms of details, such as whether they are punctual, whether they pay attention to their neat appearance, and whether they respect others' personal space, etc. These details often reflect a person's cultivation and morality. In team collaboration and communication at work, if there are issues with poor communication and low efficiency within the team, first, observe the behavior and speech of the team members. For example, team member A has strong technical skills, but a quick temper, often pointing out problems directly in meetings with sharp words, which may put pressure on other colleagues. Team member B is introverted, meticulous, but lacks initiative and rarely participates actively in discussions. Second, based on the different characteristics of the members, you can use different communication methods. For team member A, you can acknowledge their technical abilities and contributions to the project while tactfully suggesting that their communication style might negatively impact team collaboration. For team member B, you can publicly praise their work within the team and give them more responsibility. By assessing their character and worldview, you can improve the team's communication atmosphere and enhance overall efficiency. In family communication, especially in parent-child communication, issues such as a decline in a child's academic performance and emotional fluctuations, like frequently losing their temper over small things, are common. First, observe the child's behavior and words. For example, if the child often isolates themselves in their room and avoids talking to family members, or gets distracted and procrastinates when doing homework, and responds with impatience when asked about their studies, such as saying, "Don't bother me," these behaviors might indicate that the child is under academic pressure or facing difficulties at school, which could lead to low mood. Second, create a relaxed communication environment. Bring up topics the child is interested in, such as their favorite games or recent experiences at school. This can help the child relax and lower their guard. During the conversation, patiently listen to their difficulties and express understanding when appropriate. Third, after establishing trust in the parent-child relationship, guide the child to confront and resolve the issues they are facing. When testing someone's character and worldview, it's crucial not only to learn specific methods, but also to be aware of the following 3 communication taboos. First, don't make conclusions about someone's character based solely on first impressions or a single event. You need to consider various factors and give the other person enough opportunity to show who they truly are. Avoid making judgments based on subjective biases that might lead to misunderstanding. Second, avoid dominating the conversation. Don't focus solely on discussing the character-related topics that interest you, leaving no room for the other person to express their thoughts. For example, if you talk endlessly about your views on a certain value, without asking for the other person's perspective. It will not only hinder you from understanding their true character, but also make them feel ignored, negatively affecting the communication atmosphere. Third, during communication, don't boast about your own achievements, knowledge, or superiority in an attempt to showcase your brilliance. This could create resentment in the other person, damage the communication dynamics, and prevent you from accurately observing and judging their character. After mastering the basic techniques, you can try learning the following 3 practical tips. First, you can set specific hypothetical scenarios in the conversation to prompt the other person to respond. This will help you assess their character and coping ability. By observing their responses and attitude, you can gauge their level of integrity. Second, pay attention to the other person's emotional reactions in different situations. For example, when hearing about someone else's misfortune, do they show sympathy and concern, or do they laugh at others? Their emotional responses can give you insights into their character and generosity. Third, you can inquire about the other person's character from people who are familiar with them, such as colleagues, friends, or family. However, it's important to objectively analyze the information gathered and avoid being swayed by biased opinions. Assessing a person's character and worldview helps improve individual and organizational integrity, thereby enhancing social trust. Additionally, making moral judgments in practice helps people make ethical decisions in complex social environments and reduces moral risks. Moreover, using this communication strategy to evaluate others' character can promote social harmony, ease conflicts, and foster cooperation and win-win situations. Through continually asking questions in communication, you can observe the other person's ability to handle various issues and pressures, their emotional control, and their true thoughts. This process allows you to see their reactions and changes, providing a more comprehensive and in-depth understanding of the person. This course will explain in detail how to continuously ask questions in a conversation and observe the other person's reactions. In communication, when assessing others, you can continuously ask questions, engage in debates, or have in-depth conversations, placing the other person in a state of responding. This helps you observe their reactions, thought processes, emotional changes, and coping strategies when faced with different problems and situations. First, before the conversation, ensure you have a solid knowledge base. You should have enough understanding of the relevant topics or fields you're discussing, so that you can ask deep and insightful questions during the exchange. Second, during the communication, follow a logical sequence of questions, not giving the other person too much time to think. Observe whether they can quickly organize their thoughts and provide reasonable answers. Then, based on their responses, ask for further details and explanations to probe deeper into their perspective. Third, pay attention to the person's speech patterns when answering questions, such as their speech speed and choice of words. A sudden increase or decrease in speech speed or imprecise word choices can reveal their internal emotions and thoughts. In a job interview, the interviewer can use the following questioning techniques to observe the candidate's reactions. First, the interviewer can ask detailed questions about the candidate's work experience. For example, asking about specific responsibilities, role changes, and key achievements at different stages of their previous work. For a candidate who worked in a marketing department, the interviewer might ask,
"In your previous marketing campaigns, what key projects were you responsible for? What part of the work did you primarily handle?"
Through these questions, the interviewer can assess the candidate's level of involvement, adaptability, and understanding of the job. Second, based on the candidate's responses, the interviewer can further explore the candidate's professional abilities. They can ask more in-depth questions regarding the candidate's technical skills or domain expertise, examining how well the candidate understands their field and how they approach their work. Third, when asking about the candidate's project experiences, the interviewer can dive deeper into challenges the candidate faced. For instance, asking,
"When faced with difficulties in this project, how did your team members respond? How did you handle differing opinions and reach a unified solution?"
Such follow-up questions allow the interviewer to assess the candidate's teamwork, communication skills, ability to adapt to changing circumstances, and sense of responsibility. In business negotiations, you can use the following questioning techniques to gain deeper insights and strengthen your position. First, when discussing the delivery timeline clause in the contract, you can ask, "The contract specifies a delivery time of 3 months. How was this time frame estimated based on your production process and resource allocation? If unforeseen issues arise, such as delays in raw material supply or equipment failures, what measures will your company take to ensure on-time delivery? Do you have contingency plans in place?" These questions help you assess how well the other party has accounted for potential risks and whether the timeline is realistic and achievable. Second, you can further probe into product quality by asking, "During the production process, how do you ensure quality control? From raw material procurement to final product shipment, how many quality inspection stages are there?" By analyzing their response, you can evaluate the reliability of their quality standards and how seriously they prioritize product consistency. Third, when discussing pricing, you can ask, "Given the current market fluctuations in raw material costs, how does your company ensure price stability?" These follow-up questions allow you to better understand their pricing structure, identify potential negotiation levers, and determine their flexibility in price adjustments. In social interactions, when discussing trending societal topics with friends. First, if the conversation revolves around the impact of artificial intelligence on the job market, you can ask follow-up questions such as, "Which types of jobs do you think AI is most likely to replace? As AI continues to develop, what responsibilities should governments and businesses take to minimize its negative impact on employment?" By analyzing their responses, you can gain insight into their depth of thought on social issues, their values, and whether they possess forward-thinking perspectives. Second, observe how they react to differing opinions. For example, if you introduce an alternative viewpoint by saying,
"I believe that, while AI will replace some jobs, it will also create many new opportunities that require more advanced skills."
pay attention to their reaction. If they respond rationally and engage in constructive discussion, it indicates strong communication skills and an open-minded attitude. However, if they immediately dismiss or strongly oppose the view, it may suggest a more rigid mindset and a lower tolerance for differing perspectives in social interactions. You should not only learn specific techniques, but also be mindful of the following 4 communication taboos. First, avoid using insulting, demeaning, or provocative language when asking questions. Such an approach can trigger resistance and resentment from the other party, making effective communication impossible. Second, Do not pressure the other person too much during the conversation. While it is important to ask follow-up questions, pushing too hard may make them feel overwhelmed. If they express a need for time to think or attempt to avoid the topic, allow them some space. Third, maintain the main focus of the conversation. While follow-up questions are essential, do not let the discussion drift too far from the original topic due to the other person's responses. If the conversation starts to go off track, guide it back smoothly. Fourth, avoid making assumptions beforehand. Do not approach the conversation with a preconceived bias or conclusion, and then structure your questions to confirm your beliefs. Instead, keep an objective and open mindset, genuinely listening to and observing the other person's responses to ensure accurate judgment. After mastering the basic techniques, you can try learning the following 3 advanced skills. First, during conversations, present the other person with dilemmas or complex scenarios and ask how they would respond. This allows you to observe their adaptability and problem-solving skills under pressure. Second, challenge conventional thinking by asking questions from opposing viewpoints, considering different stakeholders, or exploring various contexts. This helps you assess their cognitive flexibility and ability to think from multiple perspectives. Third, use real-world cases or stories to guide the discussion, prompting the other person to share their opinions. Then, connect the topic to the current situation and observe their reactions and reasoning. By observing the responses to the questions, you can understand the person's motivations, which helps you gain a deeper, more thorough understanding of them. In daily interactions, repeatedly probing through language allows you to break through superficial words and actions, revealing their true personality, values, and internal motivations. This strategy also enhances the quality of communication, making exchanges smoother and more effective. When using this communication strategy, you can guide the other person to express their thoughts and feelings more fully, avoiding misunderstandings and ambiguities in the conversation. Additionally, by observing their reactions, you can adjust your communication methods and content in a timely manner, ensuring that the exchange better meets both parties' needs, ultimately fostering mutual understanding and trust. In interpersonal interactions, you can observe a person's moral character by asking direct and clear questions. This method gets straight to the core of the issue, avoiding misunderstandings caused by vague questions. By placing the other person in a well-defined scenario, you can reveal their inner values and ethical principles through their responses. This lesson will teach you how to see through a person's true character in conversations. In conversations, you can assess a person's character by asking direct and clear questions. This strategy leverages specific communication techniques to gain insights into someone's inner qualities. First, before posing direct questions, start with lighthearted topics to build rapport and ease any tension. For example, discussing recent popular movies or sports events can create a relaxed atmosphere, making it easier for the other person to respond naturally. This reduces the chances of defensive or insincere answers. Second, when listening to their response, pay close attention not only to their words, but also to their tone, facial expressions, and body language. For instance, if someone speaks about helping others with a sincere tone and steady eye contact, it may indicate genuine kindness. However, if they hesitate or avoid eye contact, their response may require further scrutiny. Third, if their answer is vague or unclear, follow up with additional questions. For example, if they claim they would help a struggling colleague but don't specify how, you could ask, what specific actions would you take to assist them? This follow-up encourages them to provide more concrete details, allowing for a more accurate judgment of their character. During a job interview for a sales manager position, you can assess the candidate's competency and integrity through direct questioning. First, ask a clear and direct question, such as, "What is your perspective on integrity in sales?" If a client asks you to exaggerate a product's effectiveness, how would you handle it? Second, closely observe the candidate's response. For example, if they answer,
"I believe integrity is the foundation of sales. While being honest might cause short-term setbacks, in the long run, trust builds strong customer relationships." If a client asks me to exaggerate the product's effectiveness, I would patiently explain its actual features and provide real data to support my claims.
Third, based on their response, you can evaluate whether they demonstrate strong professional ethics and integrity, making them a suitable candidate for the sales manager role. When forming a new friendship and trying to determine whether the person is worthy of deeper connection, you can use direct questioning to assess their values and character. First, ask a clear and direct question, such as,
"What do you think is the most important thing in a friendship? If a friend faces difficulties, how would you respond?"
Second, observe their response. For example, if they say, "I believe trust and sincerity are the most important aspects of friendship. If a friend is in trouble, I would do my best to help. Even if I can't solve the problem, I would at least be there to support them." Third, by analyzing their answer, you can gauge their character and decide if they align with your values. If their response reflects trustworthiness and sincerity, you can confidently deepen the friendship. You not only need to learn specific methods, but also be aware of the following 3 communication taboos. First, avoid asking questions with obvious bias or leading tendencies. These types of questions will push the other person to answer in line with your expectations, preventing you from receiving genuine responses that reflect their true character. Second, do not immediately judge or express clear favoritism after the other person responds. Even if their answer does not meet your expectations, do not rush to criticize or condemn them. Doing so may create resistance and hinder further communication and understanding. Third, while it is important to ask clear and direct questions, do not make them overly sharp or confrontational. Such questions may trigger negative reactions, leading to poor communication, or causing the other person to provide false answers in an attempt to protect their image. After mastering the basic techniques, you can start to learn and practice the following 4 advanced techniques to further assess others' character. First, create situational changes when asking questions to observe how the other person reacts. For example, when asking about integrity, you can first set a common work scenario, and then introduce a scenario involving tempting financial rewards to see if their response changes. By comparing their answers in different situations, you can gain a deeper understanding of their ethical boundaries and their consistency in upholding values. Second, ask questions from different angles to cross-verify their character from multiple dimensions. For example, in addition to asking about moral issues in the workplace, you could ask about personal ethics, such as, what would you do if you found a wallet with a large sum of cash and important documents inside? Combining responses from both work and life contexts gives you a more holistic view of their character. Third, Introduce other people's viewpoints or practices into the conversation and ask for their opinions. For instance, some people believe it's acceptable to cut corners at work to achieve goals. What's your opinion on this? Through their response, you can understand how they evaluate others' behaviors and how closely it aligns with their own ethical standards. Fourth, avoid making judgments based on just one question or one response. Instead, observe and ask questions multiple times, in various contexts, to get a more accurate assessment of their character. For example, during a project collaboration, you can engage in multiple discussions to see how they handle various challenges and what their approach reveals about their values. Mastering the ability to assess someone's real character through dialogue allows you to ask pointed questions that expose their moral views and value system. This strategy helps identify individuals with strong integrity, fostering a harmonious communication environment and promoting deeper mutual understanding. Whether in social settings, workplace interactions, or educational guidance, this approach plays a crucial role in efficiently achieving communication goals and building stable, positive relationships. A person's wisdom is not only reflected in the breadth of their knowledge, but also in the agility of their thinking. In the process of communication and interaction, by suddenly posing a question to someone, you can break the usual rhythm of the conversation, allowing you to assess their ability to quickly understand, analyze the problem, and find a solution. People who respond quickly and accurately to unexpected questions usually have strong cognitive flexibility and logical reasoning abilities. They can maintain a clear mind in complex and sudden situations, which is a key indicator of wisdom. In this course, you will learn how to gauge someone's level of wisdom through their answers to questions. Observing someone's reaction and response through sudden questioning can help assess their wisdom, adaptability, and depth of thought. A truly wise person can remain composed even in unexpected situations, demonstrating clear thinking and profound insights. Here's a detailed approach. First, choose the right moment to pose your sudden question when the other person is relaxed or unsuspecting. Avoid questioning them when they are emotionally unstable or under excessive pressure, as this may affect the accuracy of your judgment. Second, design thought-provoking and open-ended questions that encourage deep thinking and expression. The questions should not be too simple or factual, but should challenge the person's reasoning and perspective. Third, observe the person's reaction. Do they respond immediately, or do they take a long time to think? A quick response may indicate sharp thinking, but could also be superficial. A delayed response may suggest careful consideration, but it could also indicate hesitation. Analyzing these factors will help you better assess their cognitive abilities and wisdom. In family education, if you want to cultivate your child's thinking and adaptability, you can guide them through sudden questioning. First, you can ask an unexpected question, such as,
If you saw a classmate secretly taking someone else's belongings at school, what would you do?
Second, observe the child's reaction and response. If the child answers,
I would first remind them privately that this is wrong and suggest they return it. If they refuse, I would tell the teacher.
Third, through this parent-child interaction, you can see that the child is not only capable of independent thinking, but also considers their classmates' feelings and the best way to solve the problem. In friendships, If you want to gain deeper insight into a new friend's thinking and values, you can test their reaction through sudden questioning. First, you can ask an unexpected question during the conversation, such as,
if you suddenly received a large sum of money, how would you use it?
Second, observe their reaction. If they think for a moment and respond, I would invest a portion to ensure financial growth, donate some to charity to help those in need, and use the rest to improve my life, but without excessive spending. Third, through their answer, you can gain insight into their true character and values. You should not only learn specific techniques, but also be mindful of the following 4 communication taboos. First, the purpose of sudden questioning is to observe the other person's reaction, not to make them feel interrogated or pressured. Keep your tone calm and neutral to avoid creating unnecessary stress. Second, questions should be specific and clear to prevent confusion. For example, instead of asking, "What do you think about this?" ask, "What do you believe is the biggest risk in this project?" Third, remain objective when analyzing the response and avoid letting personal biases affect your judgment. For instance, do not dismiss someone's abilities just because their answer differs from your own perspective. Fourth, while sudden questioning is a useful assessment tool, it should not be overused. Excessive use may make the other person feel uncomfortable or overly cautious, ultimately harming communication effectiveness. After mastering the basic techniques, you can try learning the following 3 advanced skills. First, start with simple questions and gradually increase their difficulty and depth. This allows you to observe how the person processes information and whether they can handle more complex topics. Second, test the other person's adaptability by simulating real-life scenarios. For example, imagine you are leading a project and suddenly half your team quits. How would you handle this situation? This helps assess their problem-solving and crisis management skills. Third, ask questions from different perspectives to gain a comprehensive understanding of the person's thinking style and capabilities. For instance, when discussing a business decision, you might ask about its impact on customers, employees, and long-term strategy. Asking questions and assessing answers is an efficient method for understanding others through communication. By posing sudden questions and closely observing the responses, you can quickly evaluate their wisdom, adaptability, and depth of thought. In practical application, it's essential to choose the right moments and design thought-provoking questions. Continuous practice and reflection on the experience can help you master this approach, enhancing your ability to understand others and improve communication effectiveness. Observing a person's behavior in different situations to judge their true nature is an effective method of understanding others. When people are constrained, they may hide their true thoughts, but in a relaxed environment, their genuine state often emerges. Guiguzi emphasized the importance of patience in judgment, suggesting that one should observe from multiple angles and different contexts to identify a person's essence. By giving someone enough space and freedom to act, you can observe whether they remain composed or lose control under various circumstances. This helps assess their adaptability, self-control, and other internal qualities. Observing a person's behavior in different situations to assess their true nature is an important method in Guiguzi's approach to communication and understanding people. By giving someone a certain degree of freedom or space, you can observe whether they maintain consistent behavior and attitudes when not constrained. allowing you to evaluate their character, abilities, self-discipline, and stability. First, set clear observation goals. Define what aspects you want to understand through observation, such as character, competence, self-discipline, or emotional stability. Second, provide an appropriate level of freedom. The freedom given should be moderate enough to let the person reveal their true nature without leading to disorder. Third, carefully observe the person's behavior in a free environment. Pay attention to details, such as whether their words and actions align and whether they maintain emotional stability. Fourth, verify their consistency and reliability through real actions. For example, in the workplace, observe their long-term performance, or in daily life, assess their way of handling relationships and responsibilities. In workplace communication, if you want to understand a colleague's true attitude, first, propose a new plan and observe their initial reaction. If they respond with,
"This plan looks good. We can give it a try,"
but their tone remains neutral without further discussion, it may indicate a lack of genuine enthusiasm. Second, avoid pressing for their true thoughts immediately. Instead, observe their behavior during follow-up discussions. Do they proactively offer suggestions? Do they approach you privately to discuss details? Third, if you notice they are disengaged or indifferent in discussions, initiate a private conversation. You might say,
I noticed you mentioned the plan is good, but you seem to have some concerns. Could you share more details?
This approach helps uncover their genuine thoughts. In social settings, if you're talking to a new acquaintance, but unsure whether they're interested in the topic, first, introduce a topic in the conversation. For example, you can say,
A new movie just came out recently, and I heard it's really good.
Observe their response during the conversation. If they seem distracted looking away, frequently checking their phone, or giving brief responses like,
"Oh, really?"
it could indicate disinterest. However, if they lean forward, make eye contact and ask,
"Which movie? I'd love to see it. It shows genuine interest."
it shows genuine interest. Based on your observations, adjust the topic accordingly or decide to wrap up the conversation. In the process of observation, it's important to be mindful of the following 3 communication taboos. First, minimize your interference during observation. Avoid making the other person feel watched or controlled, as this may hinder their authentic behavior. Second, maintain objectivity when observing and making judgments. Don't let personal biases affect your assessments. For instance, avoid completely dismissing someone's abilities based on a single action or behavior. Third, be aware of emotional shifts during the observation. If the person shows clear discomfort or resistance, it's important to adjust your approach accordingly to maintain a positive and open atmosphere. After mastering the basic techniques, you can try learning these 3 advanced techniques. First, design a variety of observation scenarios to assess the other person's performance in different contexts. Second, incorporate nonverbal information by paying attention to the other person's body language, facial expressions, and tone of voice. Third, don't draw conclusions based on just one observation. Instead, track their long-term performance. In the workplace, observe employees' reactions in multiple similar situations involving temptations or complex tasks to see if their behavior is consistent. In daily life, observe how friends react to different temptations or shifts in opinion over time. If they maintain a stable attitude, it shows strong self-control. If their responses fluctuate, further observation and analysis are necessary. This method assessing a person's character through their behavior in different scenarios is a powerful approach to understanding people. It involves setting observation goals, granting appropriate freedom, and carefully analyzing behavioral responses. Combined with advanced techniques, this strategy allows for deeper insights into a person's integrity, competence, and emotional stability. It is applicable in professional, social, and family settings, aiding in making wise judgments and decisions. Habits and details are behavioral patterns that a person gradually forms through long-term experiences in life, work, and other areas. These habits and details influence a person's way of speaking. In communication, a person's speech can reveal their moral values. Once you become familiar with someone, it is important to observe their words and habitual actions, using these verbal and behavioral details to further understand their inner world, personality traits, and reflect their true thoughts and essence. When communicating with others, observing whether they repeatedly mention certain information in their speech can help us better understand their intentions and needs. This allows us to adjust our communication style and content, making the interaction smoother and more effective. First, set clear observation goals before the conversation. Determine which aspects of the other person you want to understand better, such as their character, abilities, attitudes, or values. Based on these goals, design appropriate observation scenarios and methods. Second, pay attention to the language used in daily conversations, including the content, tone, and attitude. Notice if the person's words align with their actions, for example, whether they follow through on what they say. Third, verify the authenticity and feasibility of their words through their actual actions. In the workplace, observe their performance, or in daily life, observe how they treat others and handle situations. This helps ensure that their words reflect their true intentions and capabilities. In workplace communication, if you want to identify your leader's true expectations, for example, if your leader mentions in a meeting, "We hope everyone will come up with innovative ideas," but you feel they might actually be more focused on execution efficiency. Here's how you can approach it. First, pay attention to your leader's statements and their subsequent behavior in meetings. For instance, when the leader says,
"Our team needs more innovation. Feel free to share ideas."
observe if they show interest when someone presents an innovative idea, or if they seem more focused on execution details. Second, if you notice that when colleague A presents an innovative proposal, the leader only nods briefly, but when colleague B discusses ways to improve execution efficiency, the leader becomes noticeably more focused and probes deeper into the details. This signals their true priorities. Third, based on this observation, you can adjust your next proposal. In the upcoming meeting, present a solution that combines both innovation and a clear focus on improving efficiency. This approach will likely resonate better with your leader and increase your chances of receiving recognition. In the workplace, you'll inevitably encounter scenarios where you're communicating with clients. For example, if you're discussing a project with a client who says, "Quality is the most important," but you suspect they might actually be more concerned about cost. Here's how you can approach it. First, communicate directly with the client. If the client says,
"We prioritize quality, and the price can be flexible,"
Take note of their statement, but also remain observant for signs that may indicate a different priority. Second, during the conversation, observe their behavior in the subsequent discussion. For instance, does the client frequently bring up the budget? Do they seem more interested in lower-cost options? Third, in your communication, start by proposing a high-quality solution with a higher price. If the client hesitates and says,
This solution looks great, but the budget might be a bit tight,
then it's a sign to adjust your proposal. You can follow up by offering a solution with slightly lower quality, but a more budget-friendly cost. If the client shows interest, this confirms that cost is indeed a bigger concern for them, allowing you to tailor the conversation accordingly. In family communication, if you want to understand your partner's true needs, here's how you can approach it when your partner says, "The weekend is fine, you can arrange it," but you sense they might be particularly interested in a specific activity. First, have a conversation with your partner. If they say, "You can arrange the weekend, I'm fine with anything," observe their usual behavior. For example, do they often mention a particular restaurant or activity? Do they seem especially interested in certain topics? Second, through casual conversations. If you notice they've mentioned a newly opened restaurant several times or shared articles about it, you can make a suggestion.
How about we try that new restaurant this weekend?
Third, by paying attention to your partner's words and actions, you can learn their true interests and make the weekend plans more aligned with their expectations, leading to a more thoughtful and enjoyable experience for both of you. You should not only learn specific methods, but also be aware of the following 3 communication taboos. First, when observing someone's words, you should consider the context and the specific situation, avoiding taking things out of context or interpreting them one-sidedly. Second, when analyzing someone's words, avoid over-interpreting, such as assuming malicious intent from a casual remark. Third, when observing and making judgments, you should remain objective and avoid letting personal biases influence your judgment. For example, don't dismiss someone's abilities entirely based on one remark. After mastering the basic techniques, you can try to learn the following 2 advanced skills. First, by observing the person's words over the long term, you can determine if they have consistency and stability. For example, does the person maintain consistent words and attitudes in different situations? Second, through guiding questions, you can delve deeper into the motivations and values behind the person's words. Judging whether a person's words and actions are consistent from habits and details is beneficial in modern life. It helps us accurately assess their character, abilities, and attitudes by observing the truthfulness and consistency of their speech in daily life. This allows us to build healthier and more effective relationships in the workplace, family, and social settings. This method enables us to look beyond surface-level words and perceive a person's inner qualities, avoiding being misled by temporary appearances. As a result, we can make wiser decisions, improve communication efficiency, strengthen trust, and ultimately create more harmonious interpersonal interactions and a more successful life and work environment. In interactions with others, learning to listen is a wise strategy that uses softness to overcome hardness and stillness to control movement. In communication, instead of eagerly expressing your own opinions, you should observe the situation through silence and low-key behavior. This allows you to understand the other person's needs more comprehensively and creates a better opportunity for them to be influenced by your perspective. When you want to achieve a particular goal in a situation, adopting a silent and low-key approach in the conversation is often more effective. This gives you time to accumulate enough information for subsequent actions and creates favorable conditions for the outcome. Mastering the technique of silence observation and the strategy of lifting someone up by first bringing them down involves creating a psychological imbalance in the conversation. This makes the other person feel unbalanced and establishes your guiding advantage over them, putting them in a state where they need to readjust, which can trigger their potential and strengthen their willpower. Here's how to apply this technique. First, when the other person expresses their opinion, choose to remain silent and listen attentively, without rushing to counter or express your own opinion. By observing their words and attitude, you can gather more information, understand their true thoughts and intentions. Second, once the other person has finished, adopt a humble posture and show understanding of their needs or viewpoint. By giving in slightly, you reduce their defensiveness and gain more leverage, which can help you take the initiative. Third, after the other person relaxes their guard, present your own views or suggestions in a way that subtly leads them to adopt your perspective. This enables you to achieve deeper, long-term goals and move the conversation towards your desired outcome. In workplace communication, if a team meeting involves colleagues arguing about the direction of a project, and you want to propose a compromise solution without directly getting involved in the argument, you can use the following strategy. First, remain silent and observe the focal points of the debate and the emotional shifts. For example, if colleague A says,
"We should prioritize cost control, or the budget will be exceeded,"
and colleague B counters, "But if we don't ensure quality, the project might fail," you can notice that while the debate is heated, both overlook the importance of user experience. Second, when the argument doesn't lead to a solution, you can quietly suggest, "I notice that everyone is focused on cost and quality, but user experience is also critical. Could we find a balance that controls costs while ensuring both quality and user experience?" This approach offers a solution without directly getting involved in the argument. Third, by observing silently and speaking at the right moment, you can avoid directly entering the dispute while also taking control of the discussion. This allows you to influence the direction of the conversation and guide it towards a more balanced, collaborative outcome. In team management, if one of your subordinates is dissatisfied with the work arrangement and expresses complaints in an emotional manner, and you want to resolve the conflict and guide them back to focusing on work, you can follow these steps. First, during the exchange, remain silent and avoid immediately refuting their complaints. Instead, observe their emotions and words. For example, if the subordinate says, "This task is completely unreasonable, I can't possibly complete it," you can recognize that their complaint is rooted in the pressure of the task, rather than the task itself being unreasonable. Second, at the right moment in the conversation, provide constructive feedback and guide the discussion toward a more positive direction. For example,
"I understand your pressure. This task is indeed challenging. How about we analyze it together and see which parts can be adjusted or optimized?"
This approach helps to calm the subordinate's emotions and moves the discussion toward a rational analysis of the task details. Third, by using this communication method, you can avoid escalating the conflict while guiding your subordinate back onto the path of problem solving. This ensures that communication efficiency is maximized and the issue is addressed constructively. You should not only learn specific techniques, but also be mindful of the following 3 communication taboos. First, when maintaining silence, ensure moderation to avoid making the other person feel ignored or neglected. Second, during observation and questioning, pay attention to the other person's emotional changes. If they show clear discomfort or resistance, adjust your approach accordingly. Third, set reasonable expectations during observation to prevent disappointment due to overly high expectations. For example, do not expect the other person to be flawless when given complete freedom. After mastering the basic techniques, you can try the following 3 practical strategies. First, when the other person expresses an opinion, remain silent and show a degree of confusion or lack of understanding, making them feel the need to further explain or justify their point. This psychological gap encourages them to reveal more of their true intentions or weaknesses while trying to convince you. Second, after they finish speaking, adopt a humble attitude, suggesting that you have limited ability or need guidance, which may trigger their protective instinct or sense of superiority, making them more willing to share insights. Third, after the other person expresses their opinion, maintain a brief silence of 3 to 5 seconds, creating a slight discomfort or uncertainty, prompting them to voluntarily add more details or even adjust their stance. Silence and observing before acting is a highly effective communication strategy. Mastering this tactical communication skill enables you to better guide, motivate, and elevate the other person to achieve mutual goals or better cooperation. By maintaining silence and a humble posture, you can more effectively observe the other person's words and attitudes, thus gaining the initiative and ultimately achieving higher objectives. This approach can be applied in various contexts, such as the workplace, family, and social settings, helping you to handle conflicts more effectively and reach consensus. In interactions and relationships, if you want to test someone's courage, you should first present the difficulties they may face, and then observe their attitude and actions in response. This approach allows you to assess whether they have the determination to confront challenges, providing a structured way to evaluate inner qualities in specific situations. To apply this technique in communication, you can define a specific difficulty or challenge scenario, present it to the other person, and observe their reaction and response. This allows you to assess their courage, determination, and problem-solving abilities. The core of this method lies in creating a certain level of pressure to test their inner qualities and capabilities. First, choose a difficulty wisely and make it relevant to the person. The challenge should align with their identity, abilities, and environment. It should be difficult enough to test their courage, but not so overwhelming that it discourages them completely. If it's too easy, it won't reveal much about their resilience. If it's too hard, they may simply give up, rendering the test ineffective. Second, highlight the key aspects of the challenge during the conversation. Clearly outline the background, current situation, specific problems, and potential obstacles. This ensures the person understands the core issue and can focus on addressing it effectively. Third, closely observe their immediate reaction. Pay attention to their facial expressions, eye contact, tone of voice, and body language. After presenting the challenge, watch how they respond. Do they proactively gather more information, seek solutions, or do they avoid, delay, or dismiss the problem? Their actions will reveal valuable insights into their mindset and ability to handle pressure. In workplace communication, if you need to assign a challenging task, but are unsure which team member is best suited for it, you can follow these steps. First, present the task in a team meeting. Clearly state the difficulties. This project is highly challenging, has a tight deadline, and requires a heavy workload. It may take up a lot of personal time and even require overtime. Second, observe your team members' reactions during the discussion. If colleague A immediately looks down at their phone, they may be avoiding the task. If colleague B frowns in thought but remains silent, they may be hesitant. If colleague C proactively asks,
"What are the specific challenges? I can give it a try,"
they might be more willing to take on the responsibility. Third, further explain the key difficulties and risks of the task, while continuing to observe colleague C if they remain undeterred and even suggest initial solutions. It indicates they have the necessary responsibility and courage for the task. This approach allows you to identify the best candidate while minimizing the risk of poor task allocation. In social life, if a friend asks you for help in finding a job, but you're unsure whether they have the necessary determination and initiative, you can follow these steps. First, highlight the difficulties involved. Say something like,
"I can introduce you, but this job is highly competitive. You may need to spend a lot of time preparing for the interview, and even learn some new skills."
Second, observe their response and reaction. If friend A immediately says, "That sounds like too much trouble," never mind. It indicates a lack of commitment. Meanwhile, if friend B asks, "What exactly do I need to prepare? I'm willing to give it a try," it suggests they have a more proactive attitude. Third, explain the job's challenges and the interview requirements while continuing to observe friend B. If they don't back down, but instead start planning how to acquire the necessary skills, it shows they have the determination and initiative needed. This method helps you identify friends who are truly worth supporting. You not only need to learn specific methods, but also be aware of the following 3 communication taboos. First, be mindful of how you present difficulties. Avoid creating excessive psychological pressure that could cause the person to become too anxious to think clearly or respond effectively. For example, exaggerating the difficulty to the point of making them feel hopeless would prevent you from accurately assessing their courage. Second, refrain from leading or influencing their response. Instead of subtly guiding them toward the answer you expect, allow them to think independently and express their true thoughts. Third, when they share their ideas or coping strategies, avoid ridicule or questioning their abilities. Even if their response isn't ideal, respecting their input is crucial for maintaining trust and open communication. After mastering the basic techniques, you can try learning the following 3 practical skills. First, increase the complexity of the challenge to gain deeper insights into the person's courage and adaptability. By introducing multidimensional difficulties, you can more comprehensively assess their ability to handle pressure. Second, simulate real-life pressure scenarios and observe their reactions. This helps evaluate their ability to stay composed and think critically in challenging situations. Third, set a reasonable time limit for their response to see how they react under time pressure. This allows you to test their ability to think quickly and make decisions in urgent situations. The benefits of stating difficulties and testing courage in real life lie in its ability to reveal a person's true response to adversity. By clearly communicating challenges or risks and observing how they react and handle the situation, you can gain deeper insights into their bravery, determination, and problem-solving skills. This method not only helps you better understand others, but also allows you to take the initiative in complex interpersonal interactions. It improves communication efficiency, strengthens trust, and ultimately leads to more harmonious relationships and greater success in both personal and professional environments.
Congratulations! You have successfully completed the entire Guiguzi Communication Skills course. Now, you can start applying these techniques in your daily life or workplace interactions.
By doing so, you'll notice a significant improvement in your ability to express yourself effectively. In the 25 lessons on communication skills from Guiguzi, you have learned how to communicate with different types of people, understand their psychology, and adapt to various situations in conversations. By mastering these skills, you will find it easier to build strong relationships with people of different personalities and expand your network. Additionally, you will be able to interpret facial expressions and body language to uncover a person's true thoughts, allowing you to gain deeper insights during interactions. By consistently practicing the techniques taught in this course, you will see a remarkable improvement in your interpersonal skills. In professional settings, mastering Guiguzi's communication strategies will help you take the lead in project discussions and support your career growth. Additionally, these skills can boost your confidence, enhance your personal charisma, and enable you to navigate various social situations with ease. If you have completed the full Guiguzi Communication Skills course and are eager to explore more about personal growth and development courses derived from Chinese culture, we invite you to visit our website, wonderorient.com. Our website offers a wealth of resources. If you are interested in structured and professional courses on Chinese culture, arts, martial arts, or music, you can explore our platform to find the content that best suits your interests. We are dedicated to distilling wisdom from Chinese culture and sharing its treasures with the world, allowing people everywhere to learn and appreciate its essence. If you're interested, stay with us on our website and continue exploring more courses.